Hello there, it's Jennifer. Thanks for stopping by. A few weeks ago, I did a video on generation stamping, and I'll link to that at the end of this video. But today I wanted to specifically show second generation stamping and how it really works well with the stamp sets that are out right now that build on each other, where you can stamp like the center of a flower, then the outside of the flower, and build up your images. And I'm going to show that on the background here, and also how to do the sentiment in the center. So let's go ahead and get started. This is going to be a one-layer card, so I am creating my own card base from a 110-pound Nina white cardstock. I like to use this when it's one-layer card. I've put a score line, and I'm going to put some tape, some painter's tape, right above the score line so I can mask off the back of the card. So later when I fold this, my stamping is just on the front because I want to have the stamping go right up to the top edge of the card. I'll show that at the end of this video. So now that I have that top of the card or the back of the card masked off, I'm going to use this stamp set from Studio Calico. This is one of their new stamp sets that's part of an add-on kit, and I'll have it linked below my YouTube description and on my blog. I really like how there's these outside of the flowers, and then you can stamp the different insides, and there's leaves and so on and so forth. So I'm going to use some Studio Calico Color Theory inks today. Now you could use pretty much any ink you want for this technique. However, some inks work better than others for generation stamping, and this is my favorite of all the inks for generation stamping. So what I'm going to do is first stamp the outside or the petals of all these flowers just as I normally would. I'm going to ink up the stamp and stamp it right onto the paper. Now when I'm doing this, I'm kind of starting with a heavy amount of flowers at the top, and then I'm just going to kind of let it cascade down my card. So I'm going to have less flowers at the bottom and use the smaller images at the bottom too. So that's just really heavy on the stamped images at the top. I'm using three colors here, like a peach, an orange, and a yellow. I just thought that was kind of a fun spring color combination. Now again, you could use any inks that you may have here, but I'm going to do a second generation stamping at the center of these flowers. And I've found that these Studio Calico inks work really well for second generation stamping for whatever reason. So that's why I chose to use these today. Okay, so now that I've done the outside of all my flowers with the nice vibrant first generation stamping, I'm going to do the inside, those large circles, with second generation stamping. So I have the large circle dots that are in the same stamp set. I'm going to ink it up with the same ink that matches the outside, stamp it off on scrap paper, and then stamp it onto my card in the center of the flowers. So I have the dark color on the outside for the petals, then I have the same color, only lighter, on the inside of the flowers for that circle. So this is a great way to take the inks that you have and stretch it and get more colors from it. You get a dark version and a light version. Again, I encourage you to try whatever inks you may have. I just found that these give me the best results, but I encourage you to try whatever you have. Now, second generation images usually aren't as perfect because you're doing this two-step process, but these inks will kind of dry out and give you pretty good even coverage. And I'm sticking with the same color on the inside of the flower as I have on the outside, just so that I can keep this background kind of simple. Now I'm using lighter colors on this card, so the second generation is going to be super light, but if you used a darker ink from the Studio Calico line or any line, you can end up with a pretty dark first image and then still have a pretty dark second image. So I decided to go ahead and fill in some of these areas with some of the other small circles that are in the stamp set. You'll notice I'm using first and second generation of these dots. Just makes it quick and easy to do because you don't have to re-ink in between each time. But I kind of have the heavy amount of flowers on the top, and then it just kind of scattering and thinning out towards the bottom of the card. So now I'm removing my tape, so I've masked off the back of the card here, and you can see I've got a nice crisp line right across the top fold of this card. Okay, now for the sentiment on this. I did two actually. I did one and I'm going to show you how I did it. And I didn't like it, so I changed it. So you're going to see two options here, and maybe you like one more than the other. But I used a new die from Studio Calico that I love. I love how detailed it is. I'm always loving word dies, especially when they're really intricate, and this one fits the bill. The first option I did is I took the peach colored ink and I smeared all over paper. It looks kind of bad here because it's not dry. And this is the die. I'm going to take it and I'm going to run this through my die cut machine, and you'll see how intricate this die cut is. Now I decided I wanted to put some sparkle on this. So this is a soft gold embossing powder from Ranger, and I wanted to see how it looked on top of this dark orange. So I'm just pressing versamark ink over the die cut. I kept it in the paper just so I wouldn't have to mess with the intricate die by itself. And I'm putting on some of the embossing powder. And this embossing powder has some glitter in it. So it's like a super soft gold with some glitter, and I thought it'd be pretty on this card. And you can see the orange kind of shines through, shows through that soft gold. This was my first time using this embossing powder, and I really like it because it's like a soft yellow color with some glitter in it, and you can see how nice it looks on this detailed die cut. Now I wanted to turn this into a sticker, so I'm putting it through my little sticker maker here. You just feed it through one side, pull it out the other. Then you rub it really well with your fingers so that you can make sure you get all the adhesive on the back of your die cut, but not on the areas around it. Once you're done, you just peel off the release paper, and then you have your die cut turned into a sticker. This is really easy to do when you have a super intricate die cut like this one. It's easier than going and putting adhesive on the back with a glue pen. So now I'm going to stick this here on the bottom of my card, and after I put it on here, I think it looks okay, but it seems to me it gets kind of washed out with all the stamping that I have going on. So this is one option of the card that you could do. You could do it just like this, but I thought it'd be better if I used a black die cut just so it would stand out more, but I did want to show you this option in case you liked it. Now I had some adhesive sticking out here on the side, so I'm just using an eraser to remove some of the adhesive that kind of webbed out from my die cut. Okay, so that was my first option for the card. I decided to change it up as I mentioned. So I have my black die cut. Now I wanted to also add some sparkle on that die cut because I did like that there was some sparkle to the card to kind of draw the eye to the sentiment. So instead I just used the same die and cut it from black cardstock. Now I've taken the die cut. Since it's so intricate, I put it on the sticky part of some painter's tape just to hold it in place while I put some versamark ink on it and heat embossed it. So I've dabbed versamark ink onto the die cut, and I've put on some Ranger Black Sparkle Embossing Powder. I love this powder. And you can see I'm just shaking it on. The reason I put on the painter's tape is it's easier to handle that way, and also I can hold it while I am heat embossing it. Now I like this embossing powder because the sparkle seems to match whatever project you put this on, so it'll pull out the colors in the background that I have. So I went ahead and ran this through my little sticker maker as I did with the other die cut, and I decided to put this at the top of the card where all the heaviness kind of is and press it down. And that's the option I decided to go for. You could put it on the bottom of the card or do the other die cut. It's totally up to you. So now I have that sparkle up there, but I did want to use that soft gold sparkle embossing powder that I showed you earlier. So what I decided to do was use Versamark ink to stamp some little dots here and there on the card, and I'm going to use that embossing powder on this. And so the embossing powder on these dots kind of pulls together with the embossing powder that's on the die cut that I've added. So I'm going to go ahead and heat set this, and you'll see that nice soft yellow sparkle that you get on these dots. And by the way, when I removed the die cut before, the first one I did, I just used an eraser to erase away all the stickiness that was left behind it when I took it off. So there you have a way to use second generation stamping for a build it up kind of stamp set. If you're interested in another video on generation stamping, you can click here up in the corner and it'll take you to another video. If you're interested in any of the products I used, they're linked below in my YouTube description, or you can head over here to my blog for much more information. Thanks so much for stopping by.